3, 2, 1. Going live. I don't know if we're live yet. This is Finn. Okay, we're live. Yay! Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Q&A session with me and Ellie. We've had some technical difficulties, so I don't know how smooth this stream is going to be so far, so bear with us. But thank you so much for joining, Ellie. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Excited to talk about FPL with you as always. And there's a lot of talking points from the last week as well. So I'm sure the chat is going to have so many questions
I
too.
know, there's so much to go through this game week. I thought it was going to be really easy. We both wanted to roll our transfers into the international break, have 2 free transfers to play around with afterwards. And now we are both, I think, using our transfers, aren't we? We've got one each. There's a lot to consider this game week, but I had to highlight this comment. Maybe Yelena fancies a bit of McGinn captaincy this week. I don't think currently, if we have a look at my team, he's actually benched. But it is Fulham at home, and with Madison out, there is potential that I can now bring in McGinn, leave Madison on the bench, deal with that later, and then this will be my team. But for captaincy, what do you think McGinn's chances are of getting some returns against Fulham?
Honestly, I don't think it's bad, but I'm just like too scared to go against like the main captaincy options. And so I'm all the time alternating between Salah and Haaland, and I somehow always pick the captain wrong. So I don't know, like I would probably go for one of those two. But honestly, if you want a differential pick and it works out, you're gonna be like the talk of the town. Maybe you'll get featured in the newspaper.
Hopefully in the Daily Star for making a good decision. Honestly, we made a video on Ellie's channel earlier in the week going into the game week talking about our team selections, and I think we're just constantly going to bring up the fact that Az was in the paper for having such a bad game week. Oh, bless him. But in terms of replacements, so obviously you have Madison in your team as well. Who are you looking to bring in to replace him?
Yeah, so initially I was thinking about just rolling the transfer, but now that he's been highlighted in that orange and it is looking like he's going to be out for 1 to 3 months, I think that I'm going to bring in Gordon.
Yes.
He's somebody that I've had my mind on, or like I've had my eye on for a couple of game weeks now, and I feel like I've really regretted not having him in my team. You can see there that he has been getting goal contributions pretty consistently.
Yeah.
I know that Newcastle don't have necessarily the best fixtures on paper, but I think what we're seeing this year as well is that a lot of the teams aren't necessarily fixture proof are fixture proof, or we're seeing these results where you would expect a team to win and then they're losing, or you would expect something different. So I'm not paying attention to the fixtures as much as I typically might have. And I think that he's looking super strong, especially we saw that he came up and played forward as well and got a goal there. So I think that I might downgrade Madison to Gordon, and then that would allow me eventually to get Son back in my team, because I am missing him and I really do want to have Son back in my team. So I think that my transfer for this week is going to be Madison out to Gordon in. But what do you think of it?
I really like that, and I think Madison with Gordon, we saw last game week his versatility. Like you said, Wilson came out, he played up front, he managed to score a goal. I brought Gordon in game week 8 when he was suspended, and it's probably one of my favourite wildcard transfers that I made. He's only had 1 blank so far, but 4 goals and 4 assists this season. Like you said, he just seems fixture proof, and I mean the Arsenal game we've discussed already together. I thought there were going to be way more goals than that. I didn't see Newcastle necessarily winning 1-0. I thought maybe it would be a draw, it would be maybe 3-2. But Gordon just seems to be getting up there, and I think he's really nailed for minutes as well. So I think he's such a good alternative. We've had a few questions coming in the chat. So obviously Madison injured, with the international break coming up, is Madison a sell or can you hold? I'm personally going to sell him. I saw a tweet today that said he could be out from anything between 1 and 3 months, which I think is quite stressful. And like you said, I think both of us really miss having Son in the team. And when we were watching the Spurs-Chelsea game, I was convinced that Son was going to get a brace. He was doing so well. He obviously did score, but it was disallowed, thank goodness. for us. We were celebrating that one. But I think if you do have Madison in your team, find a way to bring Son in if you still want that coverage. If not, do what you're doing and do a Madison downgrade to someone like Gordon. But there are so many, I think, good midfield options and not necessarily the pricier ones. There's been loads of surprises so far this season. We've got Berry Snow. I want to sell Haaland for game week 12 and 13. Any striker suggestions? I think it depends who you have currently. I'm really happy with Darwin. He did blank. I brought him in last game week. We didn't get anything from him. But I think he is doing incredibly and he's really going for it. And it's very Darwin to basically be standing in front of the goal and manage to miss. But that's the charm of having him on the team. But I can definitely see he's going to have some really high scores in the next couple of weeks. And then Watkins as well, I think is quite good. Although Villa's fixtures are changing. Sorry, the dog's crying. Villa's obviously got Fulham at home, then they're going to Spurs away. But Spurs defensively, they've got some issues that they need to tackle in the next couple of weeks. But then they're going to Bournemouth away, and then it does get a bit trickier. But Watkins has only blanked 3 times this season, so again, we could have quite a fixture-proof forward in that respect. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's hard because for me, I'm purposely setting up as a midfield 5 and then I only have 2 up front because I do feel that there's a lot of really, really strong midfield options and not as many forward options that stand out. Mm-hmm. So if I'm looking at the forward options, I'm looking at Ollie Watkins, I'm looking at Darwin. Perhaps I was looking at Wilson before he got injured, and now with Isak, I don't think I would go for him. Maybe a bit of a crazy shout could be Ferguson from Brighton. The only thing is I'm not 100% sure of his minutes. He is getting taken off either around the halfway mark, 60, 70th minute mark, but I think he could potentially be a good differential option at 8.3%. But if I had to choose, I'm really putting like the majority of my funds in that midfield. But I think the best 2 options aside from Haaland are Watkins and Darwin.
I think coming up now, having a front 3 is going to be way more popular. But you're so right. Everyone's kind of got the Watkins, Haaland, then Archer on the bench. I think regretted benching Archer after last game week. We have another one. Brian Springer. Good morning, ladies. First off, thanks for the great content. You're welcome. We love these, don't we? We love having our
I know, it's like our little therapy sessions.
Yeah,
so
and amazing. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to Ellie's channel because we do weekly videos over on her channel, and we're a lot more consistent over on yours than we are with mine. Less technical difficulties. As for me, I was going to roll my transfer and play Palmer, but worried about a Madison price drop, which could dent my team value. Thoughts. So I thought this as well, and I was going to bench Madison and then just wait for some further news or wait until I was going to use my transfer in the next game week. But I think I'm concerned about the price drop as well, so I may be taking a -4 this game week, taking out Madison. I haven't decided who I'm going to downgrade him to yet, and then upgrading Burn to Trippier. So I think if you are very concerned about the price drop, then just use the transfer, I think. Palmer, you're starting Palmer this week, aren't you?
I am starting Palmer, and I'm super excited about it after the 12-pointer that he gave me because I've been just speaking about him for so long, and I've had him in my team for a couple of game weeks, and he is a mega differential, and he finally paid off, and I was very happy about that because feel that he's been at the heart of everything good that Chelsea have been doing. And now I'm seeing all over Twitter articles about why he's Chelsea's best summer signing. And I saw that and I brought him in. And so I'm glad that it paid off. But if you do this, I would wonder, like, are you still going to play Palmer? What's the plan there? And I think, like, in terms of the price drop, I would look at it as well, like, is that price drop going to block you from potentially making a move? Like, is it a move that you've thought about? Are you going to regret the player that you're bringing in Madison for? Like, is it kind of part of your team? That's something that I'm trying to be a lot better with because last season it was very knee-jerk reaction all the time. So I'm trying to plan ahead a bit and think, okay, who are the players that I want in my team? And then if I see that they're going to go down in price, or I think if somebody's going to go up in price, then I might do it a bit faster. But I would think about that as well.
I must say, this season, you've done so well that it is a lot more, right, what's the long-term plan? I think the only thing you've been close to, which was the correct decision to do, was when Salah scored and you didn't have him in, and you were umming and ahhing, and then that was the Sunday night transfer, wasn't it? You were like, I'm sick of this, I'm bringing him in.
I know, because I really thought when I wildcarded, I didn't have him in my team, and I loved my wildcard team, and then it just absolutely destroyed my rank not having Salah in my team. And so I think that's the only decision that didn't really go my way, apart from captaincy, which I seem to always get wrong. But I think that was kind of like the turning point, and now I'm trying to come back from that of not having Salah. But I was happy with my decision, so I can't be too upset about it. Like, I just play for fun, and I kind of try to go with what my gut says, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't.
Your gut instinct, though, is so good, because it's similar with Palmer. You had last season with Wilson, you captained him, and everyone was kind of advising not to do so. You do, honestly, I've already given it a plug, but do subscribe to Ellie's content and follow her on Twitter, because you always seem to find these players. When I saw how well you did last week, today it was a live reaction. We've been talking about how awful Game Week 11 was, and then Ellie's like, oh yeah, I got 39 points, was it? And then I had 18 points on my bench. It's crazy, but very well deserved.
Thank you.
We kind of touched on this. Start one, Solanke or Gordon. I think we both agreed Gordon.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Simon, chat, don't forget to hit like. Thank you very much for the reminder, Simon. Is He-Chan a good replacement option for Madison? I actually really like him. I was a little bit worried with Neto out, how he was going to perform, but he managed to return last game week. And I think He-Chan is definitely one, because you wouldn't feel too bad about benching him either. I think he's a really good option. If I get up his details, what are your thoughts on He-Chan?
It's crazy, because I'm looking at his stats, and he has 6 goals and 2 assists so far this season, but he's had a goal contribution almost every game week. There's only 3 game weeks that he didn't, one being Man United on the first game week of the season. So I think that
this is so funny, and this shows, I think, sometimes when teams really step it up, because we had nothing against Everton, nothing against Luton, and you'd expect him to absolutely haul, but then you see like Newcastle managed to score a goal, and we talk about how good Newcastle are defensively. It's really interesting seeing like how teams can really surprise us.
Exactly, and that's why I'm not looking at the fixtures as much, because I think there's been a lot of surprises this year. And looking at the team selected by, only 5% own, 5.5 price, I think that he could potentially be a really good differential. So I would definitely consider it. Now I'm like, should I bring him in? But
this is the problem. There are so many midfield options that I really want in my team. For me, it was Hwang or Gordon. Obviously, I've gone for Gordon. But I still think it's the 50-50 decisions. And you and I are quite bitter. This will take us on actually quite nicely to one of the questions. But we both went Eze over Mbeumo at the start of the season. And that really backfired on us. But it could have been that Eze had an explosive start and we would have been flying up the ranks. But unfortunately, not the case. So this takes us in nicely. Well done, you both. Amazing content and incredible knowledge about FPL. Really well done. Thank you so much. Don't we get such nice, supportive comments? I feel like we speak rubbish half the time.
No, everybody's honestly like so lovely, and like I know I sound like a bit cheesy when I say this, but honestly it does mean the world, because creating content can be really difficult. It can be time consuming. We both have full-time jobs as well, in addition to doing YouTube. So just to get like nice comments and see that people like the stuff that we're talking about really does mean the world.
Yeah, it does. And we really enjoy doing this. So it's nice that other people enjoy it with us as well.
Exactly.
That also, we have a mini league, which I haven't put in the description, but I will add to the description after I upload this video. So do join our mini league, because I think we're going to get quite competitive with it.
I just feel so far behind. Like I need some really good weeks in order to like get to that competitive level.
It's when I saw the people that are top have got over 700 points, and I think, oh, I'm about 2 game weeks away from getting there, but it'll happen. But your thoughts about Eze as a replacement for Madison, please. I love Eze as a pick now. He's come back. He got an assist last week, I think it was. And I just think Palace already defensively look really, really good. If they can get their attack sorted, they could be such a threatening side. And obviously Eze's had a couple of weeks out. He seems fit. He seems ready to go. And the upcoming fixtures, they've got Everton, Luton, West Ham, Bournemouth. I think that's such a nice run. And Eze, I think he needs a second chance. I know you're feeling bitter towards him, but I think we should open up our teams for Eze again at some point in the near future.
I just feel so burned by him, and maybe it's not the smartest way to play the game, but you know, with some players that just have like a feeling, like I had a gut feeling on Cole Palmer, and at the time nobody was talking about him. I didn't see anybody bringing him that into their teams, and I was like, this could totally backfire, but I'm just gonna bring him in.
Yeah.
And I just don't have that same gut feeling for Eze, but I might just be blinded because I brought him in and I had Mbeumo in my team selection draft for literally basically the entire summer. And then at the last minute, I brought Eze in, and then Mbeumo ended up being the better pick. So I'm just like, oh God, I'm a little bit bitter about it. So that's why I'm not going for Eze. If he starts hauling, maybe I'll consider bringing him in. But I feel like there are just so many midfield options, and I have a couple that are like calling my name, and I'm just like, I feel burned by him. So I need a little bit of a break.
A bit of a time out to repair the relationship. It's interesting, actually. You said if he starts hauling. So I have a thing with players. Say with Mbeumo, I didn't end up bringing him in because I gave him 2 game weeks. He did really, really well. And by that point, I thought that he's not going to continue like this. So then I didn't get on the bandwagon. But with Eze, say he gets like, he scores against Everton, he gets an assist against Luton, a goal and an assist against West Ham. By Bournemouth, do you think you'd go, I'm going to give this consideration? Or do you think it would be, he'd actually not be able to maintain that?
Yeah, it's a really good question, because when do you hop on the bandwagon? When is it too late? And I think the question is if you see somebody who you think is going to continue doing that consistently. So I think back to the Brighton midfielders last season, where maybe we didn't have them in our teams to start with, but eventually they just kept getting goals and getting assists and returning. And so then we eventually did bring them all in. So I think that's kind of the question that I would ask myself. And also look at how he's playing compared to the players that I have in my team. Do I have a player that was returning a lot and now has just been quiet for a couple of weeks? I think that would influence my decision as well. But right now, apart from Matt, I'm just pulling up my team to see like who I have. So right now I have Saka, Salah, Palmer, Madison, who I'll transfer out for Gordon, and Bowen in my team. And I quite like that midfield. I do think eventually I might transfer Saka out, probably for Son. I know Arsenal have good fixtures coming up, so that's why I'm kind of holding off. But I feel like he's been not performing at the level that I would expect for FPL. So he's kind of on my watch list, but I'm quite happy with my midfielders and my team. So if they continue to return, then I'm probably not going to look to bring Eze in, but it just depends. I don't know.
It's hard because your team is really well set up. And then this takes us nicely to the next question. Best Madison replacement. There are so many. So we've already touched on this in the stream, but I would say my top midfielders that I'd like to target already have would be, if you can afford to upgrade Madison to Son, I think that's probably the logical one. If not, Bowen, I really want my team, don't have him. Palmer, I'd like to have on my team. And Gordon, I think that would be, before I just list every midfielder, I think they would be my top replacements.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like, I already have 2 of those 3 players, and I'm going to bring the third in.
Our teams are going to mesh into one at some point.
I know, like our channels are meshing into one, our teams are going to mesh into one, just everything. But I totally agree. The only thing that I would maybe be looking at is potentially a Brighton midfielder, because they do have good fixtures coming up as well.
Yeah.
So if I just take a look at their fixtures, they have Sheffield at home, Forest away, and then Chelsea, Brentford, Burnley. So especially the next 2 game weeks, they could potentially do really well. But I think that for me, the Brighton midfielders sit below the players that we mentioned.
Yeah, I'm a bit nervous as well with Brighton and De Zerbi with the rotation situation, because I feel like with Brighton's run of fixtures, they look great. But if you end up getting a player like you've already touched on that only plays for half the game, you're missing out massively. Niall says, good afternoon, everyone. Spending my lunch break listening to two lovely FPL managers. Thank you for joining us, Niall. Hope you are enjoying your lunch. Any 5.9 million good options for midfield? So I am absolutely... I know, I was thinking I'm so bad when it comes... I mean, McGinn 5.5, save yourself 4 million. Gordon obviously only 5.6. But if we have a look at the replacements... I mean, Hee-Chan, only 5.5. We touched on him so far. Douglas Luiz, potentially. Jensen is one that I was really watching closely. He did get an assist against West Ham, but Brentford's fixtures are kind of changing for the worst. But I think Jensen's going to be one, maybe from game week 14, that we all start to keep an eye on. They've got quite a nice run of fixtures. They do have the blank in game week 18. But I think he's going to be a player that at the end of the season, we find out he's actually scored loads of FPL points, but he's just ticked along under the radar.
Yeah, then you're thinking, why didn't I have him in my team when he ends up?
But I think 5'9", I know he's 5'6", but I'd say Gordon. This is going to be a stream that is just dedicated to how good Gordon is. What about you? Who do you think?
It's hard because I feel like we already talked about the main one. So Cole Palmer's just gone up in price. I think he went up to 5.1 now.
Oh, wow.
I know, I bought him at 4.9. I'm so pleased. So I think we've spoken about Palmer as well, but there's a lot of options and I think that's what makes it interesting as well. Like there's so many options at a similar price point that are all returning quite well.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's a couple of ways that you could go about it, but I think our top is probably Gordon, Palmer. Who else did we mention? Why am I blanking?
Who haven't we mentioned?
Who haven't we mentioned?
Run. I think we'll stay away.
We mentioned Douglas Luiz as well.
Just run down the list.
Yeah.
I think we'll probably steer away from midfield because I think we've covered that quite a lot, and both of us do have to get back to work within the next 10 minutes. I've just spotted Calvin in the chat. He said, looking forward to game week 12. Hope it's better than last week's. I watched Calvin's team selection video. If you haven't seen it, I would definitely recommend it. It's the most honest kind of review of the game week, and I could really relate to it. It was really, really refreshing content. The captaincy chat, our favourite topic of conversation that we always seem to get wrong. So before the Saka injury, I know it doesn't. I think the consensus is that it's not that serious and he will start. But before that happened, I was really keen on captaining Saka this week. Then I have now gone on to Salah instead. Haaland is in the background, but I think... Oh no, I'm currently on... I need to change that. So I'm currently on Salah. Haaland is vice captain. Saka I'm a little bit concerned about because if you saw the clip of the injury, I don't think it looked too serious, but obviously Arteta brought him off. And I don't know whether Saka is back to full fitness, because obviously we saw a couple of games where he was coming off early, then he was out for a week. And I'm a little bit worried about putting my captaincy on him, and then he doesn't play the full 90. So what are your kind of thoughts on that? Because against Newcastle, he did play 90 minutes, sadly didn't get any return, which was obviously disappointing. He managed to get an assist against Sheffield, played for 72 minutes. And when he came back from his rest against Chelsea, he played the full 90 and got an assist. But there's just something that just feels a little bit dangerous about going for Saka, even though I think the fixture is a really, really welcome one, especially for captaincy.
Yeah, and I think the thing with Saka, I'm just looking at his stats now, 4 goals, 5 assists so far this season. So he is returning quite consistently. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, like I feel like he hasn't scored 2 goals in one game yet this season. So I feel like there's potential for maybe a Salah or a Haaland or even a Watkins to outscore him. Yeah. And I am worried about the injury. It could also go the other way, that Arsenal are coming off of the Newcastle defeat and they just want to prove everybody wrong.
Yeah.
And come back with a vengeance. So you really never know which way it's going to go. After we had a chat on my channel, currently my armband is on Salah, but but I'm considering changing it to Holland, and I hate that because we're both Chelsea fans, and I hate when teams or when players in my team play against Chelsea, and I hate it even more if I would never normally captain them, but it's Holland. And after we saw what he did against Manchester United and how open Chelsea have been looking as well at the back, we did concede a couple of opportunities. 3 goals versus Spurs, but 2 were disallowed. But the back is looking a bit choppy, especially with the left back situation. Reece James isn't back to full fitness. I don't know. I do see us conceding to Man City, and I'm worried that if we concede once, the floodgates might open.
Yeah, big time.
So I'm very, very highly considering Holland, but he's burned me in the past. I always get it wrong because we were joking that we should just go against whatever the reasonable option is, because that's the one that always ends up falling. Yeah, so maybe we should just do a Saka or a McGinn or Cole Palmer. I don't know, but I think I'm leaning towards Holland at the moment, but it's currently on Salah.
Oh no, I was so set on Salah. Now you're saying this, because one of the reasons was that obviously we're playing City this game week. And I thought I can't have the disappointment. But if you're thinking of doing it,
no.
Now I
feel like such a bad Chelsea fan. I know.
I'm nervous. Niall says, I think Johnston or any Palace defender along with Eze are great picks. I completely agree. I bought Gahey into my team and I'm really, really happy about it. I think Palace and Arsenal have got the joint most clean sheets so far this season. So definitely a Palace asset would be good to go for. Oh, we've got Ross in the chat. Hello, Ross. Ross says, please
hello.
Dubai. I think he misspelt McGinn or Eze. I will follow your advice blindly. I go McGinn. No, the trick. Martinelli or Eze. I think Eze, if you're feeling, well, both are quite wild actually. Have you got Saka already, Ross? If you have Saka, go Eze. If you don't, go Martinelli. What do you think, Ellie?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say as well, but I don't know. I'm biased against Eze. I'm still upset with him, so I'll probably go Martinelli.
I'm so glad I've uncovered this.
But I know. Imagine he sees this and he's like, "What does this random girl have against me?"
I think this about because I love Ben Mee and John McGinn, and I'm like, if they ever see my videos or tweets, they're gonna be like, "Who the hell is this girl?"
I know. Well, I had the same with Aspie, that I would post a photo of me and Alberto, and people would be like, "Oh, how's your husband?" Oh no, I'd post a photo of Aspie, and then people would be like, "How's your husband?" And they're gonna, and I was like, he's gonna think I'm sick in the head, if he sees this. So, anyways, going back to Ross's question, I really do like Arsenal's fixtures coming up, so that's why I'm holding on Saka at the moment. Is it worth doubling up on them if you already have Saka? I don't know. I would probably at least hold off this game week to see. And Crystal Palace do have really good fixtures, so I think I would probably lean towards Eze, despite me being a little bit mad at him.
So we've got Ross's team is here. So he's got Gahey already. He's got the Palace defender. I think, what are Palace's upcoming fixtures? They do look nice. Everton, Luton, West Ham, Bournemouth. We've definitely, the minute I read this out, I was like, I've just gone through this. And then Arsenal's Burnley, Brentford, Wolves, Luton. Oh, I think Martinelli could be quite, I think I'm going to say Martinelli. Do Saka to Martinelli. He might surprise us this game week. This could be a good fixture, and it's at home at Arsenal. Like you said, they're coming off the back of a loss.
I don't know. It's the team is blurred for me, so I can't see who he has.
Do you want me to go through just in case it's blurred for the chat? So Ross has got Areola, Simicast, Trippier, Cash, then midfield Salah, Madison, Son, Bowen. Front three, Darwin, Alvarez, Watkins, and then on the bench, Turner, Saka, Gahey, Taylor.
That's a strong bench. You can even.
He's gone no Haaland, hasn't he?
I know.
Oh, good. He said, instructions unclear. I've now bought and triple captain McGinn. But if Ross is doing it.
I know. I love how we're just going back and forth.
I want Martinelli, thanks for the confirmation bias. So that helps you with your Eze hatred. We've
I know.
only got about 5 minutes left, so let's go quickly through some of these. Hi, ladies. Thanks for your valuable advice. I hope everybody out there is having a great Friday. Should I bet on Archer, Sheffield United versus Brighton with a massive list of injuries on that defence? Oh, that's fun.
I honestly was thinking about it as well because I do have like quite a few injury problems in my team, but I'm just like a bit hesitant. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it depends on how your team's looking, but because he's so cheap, I don't think there's anything to lose there. I think why not go for it? And we've seen Brighton this season; they have been leaky in their defence on more than one occasion, so I think it's
Yeah.
definitely worth it.
And if it pays off, you're miles ahead of
Yeah, because if anyone has
my
him,
team
he'll be
has
benched.
Yeah, I had a Spanish day yesterday. I'm doing Spanish Thursdays, so I'm only allowed to speak in Spanish and watch TV in Spanish on Thursdays. And so now my brain is like all discombobulated and I'm like mixing things and I'm like, oh my God, I can't speak either language.
So I don't know how you flip between the two. I can barely speak English. I have to sell Madison, have 1.2 million in the bank. Who do you recommend to bring? Would you consider Bruno? I'm deciding Bruno, Eze, Matoma, or Bowen. I think,
Oh,
in order of safety, I would say Bowen, Eze, Matoma, Bruno. But I think Bruno could do really well this week. He returned last game week. I think, and it's a nice welcome fixture. I wouldn't be brave enough to do it myself, but if you want to go a bit wild, I'd say Bowen's the long-term hold, whereas Bruno is one if you fancy a bit of a punt. Do you agree?
that's the thing. Like the fixtures look fine, but I just don't trust Manchester United. I don't trust them at all. So I personally would stay away from Man United
Yeah.
players. The amount I think they had like 3 or 4 90th minute winners, and Bruno hasn't been so consistent. 3 goals, 2 assists. Right now he's sitting at 8.3. I just think that he's very expensive for the amount that he's been returning.
Yeah.
His ownership is quite low, 13.9%. But I just don't trust Manchester United. They're coming off of a loss in the Champions League against Copenhagen, I think
Yeah.
it was, and they just haven't been looking good. So I don't know. I think that it's a very risky pick. Maybe he could go on to Hull. Like you just never know, because he is a strong player and they do have a favorable fixture. But I just don't trust Manchester United. So for me, it would be more of a punt pick for 2 or so game weeks and then looking to bring somebody else in. I really love having Bowen in my team. So I would personally go.
I think that's where every team I've seen that's doing well at the moment has Bowen, and I'm like, I need to find a way to bring him in, but I'm really happy with my midfield. But I mean, Bruno, the last couple of game weeks, obviously scored last week, but otherwise, it's not great, is it? And there's no consistency there. So potentially you could try it with Luton, but I mean, we saw Luton against Liverpool. Liverpool struggled, which I didn't expect.
Exactly.
Final couple of questions. Do you think Trippier is worth to cut the budget on midfield? Yes, absolutely. Watch Ellie's video. We discussed this in detail about my team. I 100% think he's worth it. And you're in agreement, aren't you? You already have Trippier, so you're in a strong position.
Yeah. I already have Trippier. And just to walk you guys through my midfield, I was doing some planning. I think I took a screenshot on my phone. So I was kind of planning for the next couple of game weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I could get to have Trippier, Salah, Son, Holland, Bowen, and Watkins all in the same team. So I really don't think that he eats up as much as he suggests, especially because we're seeing that there's so many good midfield options that are at a lower price point, I think, and they are returning. That allows you to get Trippier into your team. And he's been so freaking consistent. Newcastle,
crazy.
I think they might start to struggle because they do have injuries in that back line. But you also bring Trippier on for those attacking returns, which he has been getting as well. So I definitely think that he's worth the money.
And this is the thing, 9 points, a blank against Wolves, 10 points, 6 points, 12 points, 18 points, 8 points. That's more than some of my midfielders, my forwards. It's absolutely ridiculous. So I definitely think I'm going to be bringing him in. Unfortunately, we are now coming to the end of the live. We have got a celebrity though. We've got Az Phillips in the chat, who is of Daily Star fame. We're going to see if he makes the paper again this week. And Niall also said, as a United fan, I would wait to see how well they do. For now, avoid them. So that is a no to Bruno. I would say Bowen in that case. And hopefully our advice is useful there. But we'll end with Neil, hi, and hit the like. So do like this if you enjoyed it. Hopefully, I think today's a bit of a rush because we are both working. So we're trying to fit everything in. But thank you so much to everyone in the channel for joining. We really like these back and forths and being able to chat with you all got live. But if you would like to see probably a more concise, detailed answers, have a look at Ellie's channel. We uploaded a video, which is now live, isn't it? You put it up.
It is live, yes.
Talking through our team selection, our captaincy dilemmas, all of that interesting stuff, and some forward planning as well, because that's how we are as managers now. We're very, very organised. I will leave all of Ellie's links in the description below, so make sure you follow her on Instagram, Twitter. Like I said, she always seems to get ahead of the curve on players, so very valuable advice. Thank you so much, Ellie, for joining, and apologies again for the technical difficulties. The more we do these, I think, the better we will be able to get on with them and hopefully not spend 10 minutes trying to sort out audio. But thank you again for joining. Have you got any last minute words, any words of advice, captaincy advice, anything like that?
Yeah, like if you guys know who's a captain, please let me know. Like message me on Instagram, comment on this YouTube video, our YouTube video that I posted on my channel. I think I'm gonna post a poll on Twitter as well. Help me out with the captaincy options. And yeah, just thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure having these sessions with you. I'm joking that we're just like merging our channels into one, but guys, definitely sub to Yelena's channel because she puts in a lot of hard work and the content is amazing, if I do say so myself. So
you just stole my line. I was going to say check out Ellie's channel because you've been working so hard on graphics. Oh, well, I will bring it to an end before it's just us giving each other compliments. So thank you everyone so much for joining, and hopefully we will see you after the international break. Good luck.